What's going on, guys? It's Frito here for your Overwatch. Ranked mode has problems. Aaron Keller tweeted earlier today we started rolling out fixes for an issue where players from a much lower skill tier would get pulled into higher skill games. We'll continue to monitor and make additional changes if needed. Thank you for all your patience. For context, we made several changes to matchmaking in Season 3. We'll cover these and their impact, which were generally positive, in the next blog update. A byproduct of these changes was pulling gold players into GM lobbies. That's what these fixes are targeted at. The most drastic experience I've had in Overwatch 2 was yesterday. I had a game where an enemy player had 24 deaths. That's the most I've ever seen. And funnily enough, the game was kind of close. We capped all 3 phases of Rialto and they got 1.5. So a few team fights, it could have even went into overtime rounds and the guy could have more than 30 deaths. You can reach your goals if you work towards them, ladies and gentlemen. So we already know that the matchmaker itself is having some issues, which is odd that they're saying it's generally an improvement somehow, yet it has these drastic bad results. So it's like, I guess if they just erase all the horrible results, it seems like it's working better. But I have a bigger problem with the ranked matchmaker, which is going to be one of my pet issues in Overwatch 2, it feels like, because it's something that I don't hear anybody say, but looks to be one of the biggest factors in all of this. The meta swaps in the game are too severe to make your ranks accurate. We just went from a Hog Orisa meta into those tanks being quite bad, or at best situational. I'm higher on Orisa than most, but just on her most optimal setups, not playing her in every situation. But regardless, those mechanics are very different from Ryan, Sigma, Wrecking Ball, Winston, who I think are the other stronger tanks, more reliable more of the time. Even Junker Queen's getting played. I think there's a massive elephant in the room in Overwatch 2 that the mechanics of these tank picks are so dramatically different that it affects everyone. It affects the tank players and it affects the other players around them that are used to playing in a different meta. We had this in Overwatch 1 as well, but it feels much more severe in 2 because the single tank is so much stronger now. So let's put it like this. If your team doesn't know how to deal with a Wrecking Ball or Junker Queen, you would have lost last season. It's just they weren't common enough. They weren't strong enough of the time for those mechanics to exist. That's an important word. I mean the actual abilities they do, how they play, how the interactions work. Regardless of what the balance is in the tuning, players aren't necessarily good at dealing with a wide array of mechanics. And when we use balancing in order to add variety to the game, it does that, but also intensifies what that variety does. So you get these boom and bust results from season to season. So what I'm saying is, there's more reasons than just the matchmaker not working that ranked feels bad on a new season. Another way that they explained this in Season 2 after we finished Season 1 was that a lot of players come back early in the season, which of course compounds the problem of different balance states, but also the community that still was playing is at a different knowledge base than the one that leaves and then comes back. Regardless to all of this, the devs' answer is that everyone should just play more, and then the matchmaker gets more accurate over time. But my problem is, if you look at Season 2 in a Roadhog meta, I would argue I shouldn't have played, because I lost a lot of rank because I was bad on all 3 roles in that season. Now, it's interesting, I'm playing with my friend Nateson, who says the exact opposite, because Nateson was really good at the off-tank picks, mainly Roadhog is his best character maybe, but also good at Orisa, whereas I'm better at the more traditional main tank style picks. This is my issue that I have with the Overwatch rank system, because they've got multiple philosophies that compete against each other, where they're trying to balance to add variety, but they expect you to play more to get a more accurate MMR, but your hero's performance are just dramatically gonna go up and down. Like, I went literally from having Winston being a strong pick until the enemy counter me, and then I get rolled, to now, when they try to counter Winston, I've got other picks that are still good that aren't Roadhog, a character I'm not good at. So now, in Season 3, I'm winning a lot more games that I would have just been losing in Season 2, and what's the point, really? This is my question. It's like, what SR am I really, Overwatch ranked matchmaking system? I don't necessarily mind if I am a Masters player or a Grandmasters player or whatever. It kind of doesn't matter to me. That's not the point. The point is the system itself, based on how they balance the game, sends everybody on a roller coaster up and down based upon the whims of how the matchups are playing out. The fact that nobody really talks about this being a problem is pretty severe to me, and it just sort of means we always have these situations where I think a lot of players think Wrecking Ball is a lot stronger than he is. But maybe because I play Wrecking Ball, I also know the picks that counter him. So I don't necessarily feel like I struggle, because the options are either you hit your crowd controls on him. If you want to target him ever, it's got to be with certain picks that have high enough damage, or you play mobility and dodge him and just fight his team. With those options, I think Ball's severely overrated. It's just everyone's getting farmed by him right now because they're not used to the mechanics. Very similar to playing up against Ramatra, a tank that's incredibly durable and can bait you into fighting him when you can't kill him. And a big percentage of this is player knowledge of those matchups. What heroes can you even viably pick, and how are you supposed to play in that matchup? Players have to get experience playing those new mechanics. And this is my issue with this. A lot of people talk about how a draft system or hero bans will complicate the game. But every time they do these shake it up balance patches, we go through weeks possibly where players are learning new mechanics and don't know what to do. And the performance of heroes often is based on knowledge. And Blizzard can't balance for that. I mean, surely, right? Well, they will. That's the sad thing. And whenever balance is like kind of delayed, it's sort of like Orisa, right? When Orisa first came out in Overwatch 2, she's this giga tank and everyone's like, how do we deal with her? We can't kill her. There's a few picks that can, everything else should ignore her. And once players learn that, they just play entirely differently. And up against Wrecking Ball, there's a lot of picks that he will free kill you on. But once the team learns where to position, how to path, or what picks to take to either dodge him or punish him, you're not going to fall victim in the same way. And I think that presents a very big problem for Overwatch, where because the tanks are so severe in the game, because by design they're intended to be able to do a lot, their mechanics or hero kits have the potential to throw players off severely. Because here's the secret, guys. If the enemy wasn't playing Roadhog in Season 2, I felt like I was farming people with Ball then, before he got all those buffs. He was even seeing some playtime in some of the better balance patches early in the Overwatch League, kind of in that like beta to Season 1 period. I think the Season 3 balance patch is pretty good, but a problem for Overwatch design is that even if there are answers baked into the game, the players aren't necessarily going to pick them or want to learn them. Like, Brigitte is the reason why I don't rate Ball very highly, but we don't really have a large percentage of Brig players in the game. Instead, we have Ana players. She's one of the most popular heroes in the game. And if Ana misses her sleep, she is incredibly exploitable to Wrecking Ball, whereas Brig can get away and interrupt Wrecking Ball's engages, saving the target that he lands on. Also, by the way, using your shield to block Pile Driver is a massive win. I gotta make a guide on Brig. I got a lot of videos coming up, and I need to increase my rate of production here to get a bunch out, because I'm having a lot of fun with this season. But tell me, how does Blizzard balance for that? And what do we actually want to see out of the game? This is why I'm so excited for Overwatch League to be testing out a ban phase, because I think that would make players a lot happier, because either way, they're trying to add variety with balance. So you're gonna get smacked in the face with your meta being good or bad, week to week, season to season, and win or lose because of that. And then we'll have these periods of time where new mechanics are introduced and it's pretty savage on the player base. We can debate on how strong what is or isn't in the game in theory, but in practice, what normally happens is based on what the player's skill sets or even preferences are. A short way to say they're going to pick and play what they want anyway, even if it doesn't work, and their rank will just go up or down depending on that. Everyone back on the roller coaster, right? So personally, from my experience, when people talk about blowouts in the game, part of it I do think is the matchmaker, but also a big part of it is just based on players' mechanics not being good for the situation. This is also why what's kind of interesting, right? It's like, on one hand, I get comment sections looking at my support hero tier list for the main 90% of players, and Kiriko is kind of low in the A tier, but then people also say Ball's overpowered. It's like, well, Kiriko has no interactions against Ball, really. Like, you can Suzu on his engage, but she's kind of in between the two ways you're going to counter him, right? Ball's actually pretty good against Kiriko, and especially when you have a big area area of effect style ultimate, well, you can drop that right in her amazing ultimate and punish the enemy from using it. And that's like about as hard as a counter Kuriko's ult has. Long story short, the game is fairly complicated. And Overwatch has always had this ranked roller coaster problem, but because in Overwatch 1 you had 2 tanks, a big percentage was just getting your tanks on the right picks to create a comp. And in a lot of games, you wouldn't have the right comp. Whereas in Overwatch 2, it's a lot easier for the enemy to have one player on the stronger tank, which all of a sudden creates this big problem. They control the tank line in that one hero, or that one player, I should say. I don't think these problems are too severe at either like the main medal ranks or the super high ranks, but in the middle tiers, it definitely boom and busts a lot of SR, which adds natural variance to the system no matter how good the matchmaking is. And my biggest problem is their solution, quote unquote, is to tell the players to play more so your MMR gets more accurate. But what happens when you're doing that in a meta you're bad in, just naturally based on your hero pool, and then you go into the next meta where it flips on its head and now you're stomping everybody in those same ranks that you dropped to? It's like, that wasn't what your MMR should have been. You should have just like banned yourself out of that bad meta, just like taken that season off. That would have been much smarter for me personally, who lost like a rank each from season 1 to 2. And now I've been pounding in a lot of these games that I've been playing. I don't know how high I'll get in season 3, but it's been a lot easier with my heroes being a lot more viable. And I'm curious to know what you guys think in the comment section down below. What effect do you think balance has on the variance of your rank season to season? So for me, it was like a full rank, which is a lot of games, right? Like 500 SR or so, or 5 sub tiers, sometimes even a little bit more for me. That's kind of ridiculous. That's not normal in other games. And if that's gonna happen anyway, I'm really confused why they abandoned the soft reset idea. We already know that that's going away entirely, like the ranked indicator fake reset. I swore they said in a blog post they're getting rid of that for season 4, but they never really committed to the soft MMR reset. And since the meta variation matters so much, I just don't see why they don't do that. In any case, season 3, I think's got some of the better balancing in the game, but that also means a lot of the mechanics are in play, which makes the width of the meta thicker. And I think those are the metas that I'm better in, because I'm better at understanding a lot of the game rather than being elite at like a smaller subset of it, unless that happens to be like one of my best heroes. What I would like from the devs to know is like, what is their actual vision for the game? Like, do they prefer a narrower meta? My assumption is no, but like I think some players would say they prefer it. Like if you're a hog player, you probably liked season 2 because you got rewarded with lots of wins. Or is the more diverse meta what they're looking for? I'd like to know the answer to that. And maybe with it, I'll decide to avoid a meta like season 2 where there was really like, I don't know, a handful of characters that you needed to play to have a chance to win, because they hard dominated the others. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below. If you enjoyed this video, please be sure to leave it with a like. Don't forget to subscribe and click the bell icon to actually get notified when our videos come out. That's been it for me. I've been Frito for your Overwatch. I'll see you guys next time.